Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to listen to our chief guest that you've been waiting for. I hand over the mic to Padam Shri, Professor Dinesh Singh sir, for his thoughts and his reflections on the data, the topic, data analysis. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, Rekhaji, and I wish to express a deep appreciation for having given me this opportunity to speak today. But I must also confess that I've heard many wise people speak today, and I really have nothing more to add beyond what they have said. They have highlighted in their own unique ways, starting with Dr. Agarwal, Professor Nageshwar Rao, Professor Shailendra Singh ji, Sanjay ji, Sanjeev ji, and then of course Dr. JL Gupta. Each one of you has expressed in your unique way the significance of why we are gathered here today. So I may or may not be able to add much to it, but as they say, now that I'm here, I will have to deliver. So I will try and do my best. I believe this is a magnificent effort on the part of Ramanujan College and of course the Accounting Association. And Ramanujan College has been a pioneer in many ways, not just on a platform like this, but in the realm of education, it has made very good strides, and it gives me great delight to see this institution flourish in this fashion. Much credit will go to, of course, Dr. SP Agarwal. He has organized a band of very dedicated colleagues who take care of these things. I must also remark that there was a significant hitch, a technical glitch, which did not permit us to start when we had proposed to start. And I learned a major lesson. I saw that all the organizers, whether it was Dr. Gupta, Dr. Agarwal, Rekha ji, or Anjali ji, all of them kept their cool. They stayed calm. And they managed to keep us in good cheer, which is a huge learning for all of us. This is the way one must handle any crisis situation. So thank you very much for teaching us that. I really appreciate this effort on getting our faculty across the country, our colleagues across the country, to be acquainted with the importance of data. You know, in mathematics, we deal with numbers a great deal. And many times, especially in an area like mine, we talk of infinity. And we say that here is a sequence of numbers that is heading towards infinity. And in the Indian context, in our deep philosophical traditions, God is often referred to as the infinite. Even in other traditions, they talk of God in this form of infinite wisdom, infinite this, infinite that. Tulsidas says it very well when he says, Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta. God is infinite, unending. So I see a sort of metaphysical or philosophical connection between data and God, and let me illustrate. All that we see around us, according to me, and this is a personal opinion, you don't have to agree with me, allow me to indulge myself. Of course, you are a captive audience. What we see around us is God's handiwork. It represents the handiwork of the infinite. And our effort in our lives is always to try and fathom this infinite. And to do that, what do? We tend towards it, like this increasing sequence of numbers that we say is going to infinity. And therefore, in that context, data is one way of understanding the handiwork of the infinite. And the more the data, truths will begin to emerge. And I will illustrate what I'm trying to say. But if you compile more and more and more and more data, certain truths will start emerging on their own, just as a yogi, when he evolves, when he rises spiritually, certain gifts, certain spiritual properties descend upon him in exactly the same way. And now let me illustrate with concrete examples from our real world. So, why are we doing this? As I said, to understand God's handiwork. And there are two ways to understand God's handiwork. Either I get acquainted in such a way that I can explain why something is happening or how it is happening. Or I get acquainted with something and I am then able to predict that something will happen. These are two ways of explaining the world around us, either by explaining the world or by predicting what will happen. So explaining phenomenon or predicting phenomenon. And data plays a big role in that. And I want my colleagues to know one thing, that the importance of data was first understood in India before any other part of the world. All historical records that I have been able to examine clearly indicate that a few hundred years before the time of Jesus Christ, Chanakya in this land was the first to understand the importance of data for good governance, for good administration. Many of the modern concepts of statistics that we use are all embedded in Chanakya's writings. The tragic part is that I did not learn this from anyone in India. All this has come to me from someone who lives in the United States, who has done deep research on Chanakya's statistical knowledge and how he used that for good governance. Tragically, my own country seems to have forgotten or lost its heritage. That is why I find that there is always inaccuracy in any kind of data-based information in India. No matter where you look, we are always getting lost by giving incomplete, inaccurate, or bad analysis of data. And we need to think about that. Precision is extremely important in our realm. And now let me explain to you what I mean when I say accumulate more and more data and truths will begin to emerge. Suppose I take a coin and ask you to toss, and then ask the question, what will be the outcome, a head or a tail? Besides God, no one can really tell. It's impossible. Either a head or a tail may occur, no one can tell. But now let me tell you something else. You start tossing this coin, say 1,000 times, and then count the number of heads and the number of tails. And you will find that a pattern has begun to emerge. You will find roughly half the number of times there will be heads and half the number of times there will be tails. Do that 100,000 times and you will see a stronger pattern emerging. Of course, it's going to be very difficult for you to toss a coin 100,000 times. That is where technology comes to our help. I know that schools teach simple probabilities, simple statistics to their students. They also talk about tossing a coin, but I've hardly ever come across a school that has taught a student through simple use of computer technology how to toss a coin 10 million times. And when you do that, the student immediately understands what is the meaning of the phrase, probability of a head occurring is half. The frequency of heads in 5 million tosses will be half. 10 million tosses, half. And how does he do that? Well, simple use of software tools such as Excel, which seems to be there on everybody's computer. You write a simple macro, create a simple program, and you can toss coins as many times as you like, and not just one coin. You can toss 10 coins simultaneously and count heads and tails. You can do all kinds of combinations, and your understanding of large data that begins to get better and better. So here is the first learning we have. A healthy, productive combination of technology and tossing a coin, a real world hands-on experiment, and some truths are beginning to emerge when you have large amounts of data. So as I said, you toss a coin 10 times, you will not see anything. Maybe there will be 9 heads and just 1 tail. But that's not going to happen if you do it 10,000 times. And certainly not if you do it 1 million times. So large data begins to start giving us truth, starts yielding truth. That's what I meant by that, getting closer and closer to what God has set out for us in this world. And you know, I use the concept of a computer or some software tool like Excel to do this. But just think, when there was no computing tool available to us, how did the ancients use data analysis to good effect? Very few of us know that people like Aryabhat and other mathematicians of ancient India compiled huge amounts, sine tables with great accuracy. And they used that for nautical tables for navigation of ships. That data was extremely handy for ships to be able to find their way in the high seas. So the knowledge tradition based on data has always been very strong in India. Only in modern times, when I look at my students, not just in my university, Delhi, but other universities in India, they seem to be clueless, as many of the speakers before me said, clueless about what is data, how to use it, why is it of such great benefit, which is very, very tragic. The Europeans also began to catch on to the importance of data. You know, when Kepler formulated his laws of planetary motion, it was just data analysis and nothing else. For one whole lifetime, Tycho Brahe compiled data while studying the positions of planets day in, day out, or night in, night out. He kept recording and recorded and recorded and recorded. His tables were enormous. And then he died, and his pupil, Kepler, continued the process again for many, many, many years. And eventually, Kepler could see that some truths are emerging from the data. It is nothing but data analysis. And then he saw the first important truth, that all planets go around the sun in an elliptical orbit, not circular. Imagine if we look at the skies at night, if you look at Jupiter, Mars, Venus, you won't even realize that it is going around the sun. And if you do realize, it will still be harder for you to understand whether it's a circular orbit or an elliptical orbit or something else. But here is Kepler, building upon the large amount of data that Tycho Brahe built, then his own data, he is able to bring this truth out that all planets will go around the sun in an elliptical orbit. Just imagine. So the ancients had no computational tools, nothing. Everything was done by hand. And yet they could gain such profound insights. And the history of humankind is replete with this kind of data analysis, which has allowed man to make huge progress. We must get our students, I'm addressing teachers, and I urge you to embed this appreciation of the importance of data in our lives and how much it has benefited human civilization. If you look at Mendel, what did he do? All Mendel did was compile data by observing the offspring of generation after generation of flowers of the pea plant. He just took 2 colors and crossbred them and saw the traits that succeeding generations were inheriting. And he kept recording the data. When he had so many generations of data, he began to see a clear pattern or truth emerge. Again, there was no computer, there was nothing, all by hand. So do not allow your students to believe you will always need a computer. The most important tool is embedded in the student's head, his mind, his brain. Please urge him to understand what did Kepler do? What did Mendel do? And then when they use a computer, they will be able to use it more efficiently. And you will be surprised how important data is even in our everyday, day-to-day lives. About 100 years ago, there was this person in the United Kingdom, more than 100 years ago, who began to understand that you could draw many inferences by just looking at data in a scientific, organized way. So one of the things he did was he looked at a large number of married couples, very large number, hundreds. And then he looked at their offspring, boys and girls. He looked at the heights of the fathers, the mothers, the heights of the daughters and the sons. And you will be surprised, a very clear correlation emerges. Unfortunately, we don't seem to do all this in India when we talk about data. These are simple things. And remember, as they say in Hindi, saralta mein prabhuta hai. There is divinity in simplicity. If we start with the simple things with our students, they will begin to understand and appreciate more and more how and where to use data. So let's not try and complicate things in the beginning. Keep things simple. I always have this motto before me: keep things simple. Do not be stupid and complicate things. Keep things simple. And you will see that. I was addressing a bunch of teachers of mathematics who were doing data analysis just a few weeks ago through a webinar. There were about 40 of them. And I asked them, can you tell me what is the probability of an Indian contracting the coronavirus today, or how would you at least formulate the problem and what methodology will you use? They were clueless. They had no idea what I was talking about. That is what I'm trying to stress. When you keep things simple, you are able to connect immediately to the world around you. The problem that I asked is within the grasp of a 9th standard school student. There's nothing there which requires high-end knowledge. Knowledge is not needed. It's just practical insight, the ability to understand the real world through our own eyes. That is missing, and that's the first prerequisite to take data into our hands for benefit of civilization, for the benefit of mankind. And you will find this in millions of ways. Try and do these experiments on your own. You know, I am aware of some experiments that were performed sometime back in the United States a few decades ago. There was this researcher, I think his name was Mir, I'm forgetting, he was a distinguished statistician. What he did was, he looked at school students who were about to graduate and enter university. They were about to take their final school leaving exams. He devised a simple test, just a written test, based on empirical properties. And he predicted an outcome for the student, what grade he will get during his school leaving process. And he also asked many school counselors and psychological assessors to individually interview each of these students for about an hour each, large number, and to talk to them and look at their scores and to make predictions based on this personal interview of how they will fare. Guess who was more accurate? Not the counselors who believed that they could assess a student by personally talking for 40 minutes to an hour. No, they were way off the mark compared to this simple practical database test that he had devised. It was a huge revelation to people. You will see many correlations emerge like this. I'm sure you've heard of the SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test that the United States conducts. There is a body there which conducts for school leaving students, and these scores are used to grant the students admissions and scholarships to universities across many places in the US. Many Indians also take it, and everybody swears by it. It is something like the IIT entrance exam. Here is something interesting that has emerged. So somebody did a statistical analysis, and they found that students who score pretty well in the SAT scores, when they go to college, their performance has no relation with what they did in the SAT scores. It is far better related to the scores that they got in their school exams. So this SAT thing is really not assessing the student, and everybody swears by it. We need to think about this. This is how data is put to use. You collect enormous data, collect the scores of every student who took the SAT, collect the scores of all those students when they are in college, collect the scores from their school grades, and see a correlation, and a truth will emerge, and you can put it to practical use. So many universities in the US now do not give that importance to SAT scores, and they used to. I wonder if any one of us has had the insight, the patience, or the ability to look at the IIT entrance exam or any other entrance exam to see, do these really predict what a student is going to do in life? Or is this just a one-time major effort in a tuition center? No reflection on the student's ability. I don't know of any such study. So my urging is that we have to look at data from many perspectives, particularly in the social sciences. Here is another experiment based on data that somebody performed, which has very interesting consequences. At Princeton University, a psychology professor collected a large number of students of Princeton University, very large number, and he made each student look at photographs of individuals for very brief seconds, not even 1 second. He would just flash the photograph and take it away. And for each photograph, he asked all the students, all hundreds of them, to rate them in terms of what they thought. Was this a good man? Would he do well in life? Something like that. What he did not tell them was these were people who were at that point in time contesting elections at various places in the United States. And these Princeton students rated all these photographs by barely looking at them. And they made a data analysis of how they had rated. And there was a strong correlation between how much they liked the photographs and the success of all those people in the elections. This is something very interesting. So these students didn't know that they were standing for elections. They were not major politicians. They were just looking at the photographs and quickly trying to assess, will this person be a good person? Will this person be intelligent? Will this person do well in life? Something like that. And when the election results were announced all across the US, they saw more than a 70% correlation between the ratings that people gave while looking at the photographs and the success these politicians had in the different elections. That is what I'm trying to say. In the social sciences, we must forever be alert. We must forever be looking out to see how and in what way we can use data to advantage. You know, about 15 years ago, I was approached by one of India's largest banks. I will not give you the name because we had to sign a confidentiality clause. But believe me, one of the largest banks in India. And they asked me if I could help them optimize their day-to-day operations in the hundreds of branches they had in India and abroad. So I asked them, if you ask me to optimize, and I did this purely pro bono in an honorary capacity, but I said I will do it provided you let me have access to transactions on a daily basis for every customer in every branch. And they said, yeah, we have all the data, don't worry. So I asked the data to be shown to me. I collected a bunch of undergraduates from Delhi University, just a bunch of undergraduates. And I said, let's look at the data. What surprised me the most was that the bank had such badly arranged data. You know, data has to be collected in a concise, precise, organized, intelligent manner. The bank had no idea how to collect data. I was surprised. Even I had an account in the bank and I started getting worried. I think all of you would, I will not name the bank. I think all of you must have had an account there. I thought this is how they store data. They have no idea what to do, how to keep it. There was so much noise in the data, but it was a great learning process for the undergraduates. So they began to clean the data. The bank also learned, therefore, that from now onwards, they must store data in a certain way. And after we cleaned the data, then we began to understand what are the variables that give outputs like this data. So there were all kinds of variables. So we looked at daily transactions in all the branches for every customer, and then we saw patterns begin to emerge. And believe me, we didn't use any Python, we didn't use R, we didn't use SAS, we didn't use anything like that, nothing. We just used Excel. We devised our own macros, and we sorted out the bank's operations once and for all. It became a live self-improving software that we gave them. They saved crores and crores of rupees after we did it for them. Simple stuff, simple Excel, simple undergraduates. It was a huge learning exercise for all of us. So believe me, you don't have to needlessly complicate things. Sometimes common sense itself works. Sometimes many great things happen just like that. I don't know how many of you have had the time or the interest to look at the work of Thomas Piketty. His book, Capital, that leads to inequalities, to my mind, is one of the most fundamental pieces of work in economics in the last 100 years. Very fundamental. It's a huge volume that he's written. He's done other great work after that. Most likely, he will be given the Nobel Prize in economics in the years to come. He's still very young. What has Piketty done? He has come to a conclusion. What is his conclusion? His conclusion is the following, that in countries, when you look at economic growth and rate of return of investment, so you chart the economic growth over, say, 10 years of a country, over 20 years, over 30 years, and you look at rate of return of investments through various instruments and tools in the country, and he found that whenever for a long time the rate of return of investment was higher than economic growth, then socio-economic inequalities began to occur with great frequency in the country. And how did he arrive at that truth? You know what Piketty did? His data was from all European nations. He accessed the income tax records for few hundred years of every Western European nation. It's a huge amount of data. This is big data. And then he began to do a systematic, intelligent analysis. And these are the truths that emerged. Chanakya was like that. Unfortunately, in modern times, I just don't see too many Chanakyas. You can find and use data in 100 ways. Let me give you an example of data from literature. You know, I don't know how many of you are interested in detective stories, and I don't know how many of you ever read Arthur Conan Doyle and his detective Sherlock Holmes. There is one very interesting short story on Holmes called The Adventure of the Dancing Men. In that story, Holmes is visited by a person who lives in London, who tells him that he has come across lots of messages on pieces of paper in his house every day, for day after day, for many weeks. He had a huge amount of these slips of paper, and what were the messages? They were dancing figures, simple dancing figures of humans. Simple. So straight lines, head, arms like that, and legs like that, in different poses. And he says, I know that these are coded messages, but I have no idea how to decode them. And these are some secret messages happening in this large house where I live. There are too many people here. Can you please help me understand what these messages are? And you know, Holmes decodes them. And you know what he did? Simple data analysis. Holmes was also very conscious. In other words, his creator, Arthur Conan Doyle, understood the importance of data. So in the story, he tells us that Holmes had analyzed data of the English language. Of what kind? So Holmes knew which letter of the English alphabet is used with the greatest frequency. It is the letter E. You will be surprised to learn that. Maybe some of you know that. And then he looked at all the dancing figures, and he understood that a bunch of figures together is some word of the English language, and different figures are different letters because the message was from London. So he figured it is English. And then he looked at that dancing figure in this huge collection of messages, which was being used the most. And he made a very intelligent guess that this must be the letter E. Then he looked at words that had two letters in that, and the second letter was E. From there, he made intelligent guesses of which would be the first letter, and finally he decoded the whole message. I have never come across any teacher in any data class in any place in India who has used this through the computer. It is so easy, so trivial. I have done this experiment online and face-to-face with many students. Even when I was vice chancellor, I took a bunch of humanities students, got each one of them to download a 1,000-word arbitrary passage from the English language through the net, use simple word software, count the frequency of the letters E, A, X, Z, etc. And they could tell immediately, because there were large numbers of people analyzing, that all of them saw that E was the most frequently used letter. Now you can do many other things. And incidentally, more than 100 years ago, there was an Englishman who also looked at Indian languages and data connected with them. His name was Grierson. There was no computer then. I ask college teachers now, I say this with folded hands and in humility, that data is part of our DNA. This is India. We created numbers. Please believe in yourselves. Why have we lost ourselves? It took an Englishman 100 years ago to look at how language changes over geographical regions. Grierson studied the way words and use of language changes, and he found in North India, UP particularly, language changed. The use of words, the intonations changed every 10 kos. A kos was a unit of distance that India used to use much before the British invented miles. Unfortunately, now no one knows what a kos is. It's a little more than a mile. And Grierson understood that language, bhasha, changed every 10 kos. I have never come across another study after that on this simple aspect of data. There are all kinds of things you can do. Let me give you another very interesting use of data and what kind of truths emerge. You know, the Election Commission of India has the names of every single voter in India from age 18 onwards. So it's a huge database, big data, crores of people. One time a few years ago, one of the deputy chief election commissioners, a person whom I know, so I know this personally, he conducted an amazing experiment. He looked at the surname Arora. And then he said, let me see, because I know that Aroras used to live largely in Pakistan. And after partition, they moved into India. So he said, let me see how the Aroras have migrated where in India. So he had a software program written where he wanted to know how many Aroras live in which city. And he fed it into the database of the Election Commission. And you can see a clear migration pattern of the Arora clan. So there is a border town in India whose name I forget. There is the largest concentration. Then the concentration decreases and moves in 3 directions. So you can see how the Aroras have migrated. You see this social insight, a social truth coming out of just good use of data. That is the point I'm trying to make. All you need is some curiosity, some belief in ourselves, and then you can do all kinds of things. When the coronavirus struck, it had not yet come to India. In March, it is on record, I made a prediction. I made a prediction based on simple data analysis that India, of course, will be infected. There will be all kinds of infections, but the number of deaths will be very low. It is on record, you can see that. I wrote a public article on that. And why did I do that? I just looked at the data of many, many countries and I could see some clear patterns. And I began to understand that certainly India will not have too many deaths. It will have many infections, but not too many deaths. And by God's grace, it looks like I was right. Our students could have done the analysis that I did, but I have yet to come across a school or a college student being given this simple exercise. There's another interesting piece of work with the coronavirus. There's a company in the US called Kinsa. It's a very intelligent startup created by an Indian called Inder Singh. He lives in California. Kinsa makes extraordinarily smart thermometers. These thermometers are so smart that in the fraction of a second, without touching you, they will immediately read your body temperature. And more importantly, Kinsa thermometers are connected to cloud-based servers. So as soon as a reading is made, without revealing the identity of the person, his geographical location and his temperature and his date and time are recorded in the server. And Kinsa has used it, and there are millions of Kinsa thermometers being used in the US. Millions. And Kinsa has come up with amazing insights on the coronavirus simply through this data. One, it can show where the coronavirus problem is decreasing, it's subsiding, and where there are hotspots, all through data. Now, all I'm trying to say is that when we teach, unless you connect simple knowledge, simple software, simple ingenuity with real world problems, hands-on activity, and a little bit of awareness of different disciplines, you will never really get your message across to your students. So my humble request to you is keep things simple, make them connected with your hands, in other words, to the real world. Allow different branches to work, literature, economics, this and that, with data. Use simple software, and you will find that this will become so great. It will help India to once again rise as a power of knowledge, which is what all of us want. Thank you very much for this patient listening. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Dinesh Singh. As I had said earlier, each time that I have listened to you, there is so much to take away, something so new, that it is always an inspiring session. I think, sir, you really took us through time, from the ancient times, that how you connected the data with the infinite, and how we were made to understand that it is not only the God's handiwork, but we have to fathom the infinite. Sir, I think we have forgotten what our legacy has been, and thank you for reminding us. We have forgotten to explain and to predict, both, I think, and with very simple examples, sir, using from the scriptures as well as from the international scholars, from Chanakya to Kepler and Mendel. So you really brought out the importance of data in our lives, and how not just the computer that is required, but I think what is required is the mind computer, which is the most important thing that you have really been able to bring forth with. I do hope that all the young professors, teachers who have been listening to you are not only inspired, but the curiosity will be built, the beliefs will be restored, and the efforts will be made, sir. I'm really hoping that India will become the next pioneer in all kinds of researches using data that is available, and using simple methods and not complicating the lives. Thank you once again for being so lucid in your presentation, and for giving us a huge amount of information and knowledge. We are really indeed indebted to you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Dinesh Singh, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm very happy to inform the gathering that Professor Mahesh Verma had tried to join us earlier also, but I think technical glitches didn't allow him to join. But he is with us, and I'm very happy to say that we would be able to now listen to his presentation, to his thoughts too. So I request Padam Shri Professor Maheshwar, Dr. Professor Mahesh Verma, to please speak to our participants. Professor Mahesh Verma, sir.
Thank you, Rekha ji. Nice of you for having invited me. But as you all know that I am on the road, and I am on some small assignment. And you see, I'm so delighted to be amongst you. In fact, this morning I was looking forward to this very interesting webinar, and I want to congratulate the team, Dr. SP Agarwal, Dr. JL Gupta, Rekha Dayal, for roping in so many luminaries. In fact, I was thinking that this is a kind of a social question. This is a question of a social science. Then it needs to be analyzed that how Dr. JL Gupta and the team have been able to bring in so many top luminaries, a galaxy of them at this platform. And that is one information we need to analyze. That's on a lighter side, but Thank you so much, for giving me opportunity. Unfortunately, I have, because of my assignment, I'm not able to spend much time with you. But nevertheless, I listened to Professor Dinesh Singh a little bit, and I always admire, the way he brings up context, and he's a great orator, great speaker. He's always such a learning experience, and I missed other presentation, but let me take this opportunity to congratulate the organizing committee for this wonderful webinar on data analysis. And as we all know, that information is something which is most empowering, and it fosters independence, confidence, and leadership. And it's also information has a capability to transform the age-old system. And that was what Professor Dinesh Singh was just saying. And this information comes from data analysis. So any data that can be analyzed and can be connected, and how Professor Dinesh Singh was saying that how the Aurora clan's lineage and how they migrated, and how they came and how they spread. So all that. So it's a great it's a great topic. And without much ado, let me thank you again for having me on this program very briefly, and congratulate you, and also appreciate all the top-notch key speakers, galaxy of key speakers who were able to contribute. Thank you very much, Rekha ji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Mahesh Verma. And I think, sir, taking a cue from what you have said, and also the inspiration from Professor Dinesh Singh, where he has brought in the divinity in simplicity concept. Sir, I think there are new topics for data analysis that you have given us. Dr. JL Gupta shall definitely be one of them. And I'm sure how he gets everybody onto it will be a subject of great interest. Thank you so much, Dr. Mahesh Verma, for being with us. And we are very grateful to you, sir.
Thank you.
So I think now it's time for me to call Dr. Anjali Gupta to propose a vote of thanks. But before I do that, I would definitely like to thank Professor Dinesh Singh once again, when he told us that in the crisis situation, sir, how we kept our cool. I think our exteriors really hid what we were feeling inside, and I know what Anjali was going through. So thank you so much, sir, that you found us to be more patient and cool. But I must say, Dr. Anjali Gupta, Associate Professor at ARSD College, is a one-man army herself, one-woman army herself. She has really worked very hard for this FTP, and has single-handedly been able to, look at the various aspects of FTP program and work with her organizing team and her technical team very well. Did not lose her cool, as Professor Dinesh Singh has rightly said, sir, that she was, when we were unable to, join the meeting and we were all literally ringing her up, I found her, each one of us, the phone calls that she took, and was very coolly telling us, don't worry, ma'am, it'll just take 2-3 minutes. Don't worry, ma'am. It's a technical problem. So Anjali, thank you so much for being so patient with each one of us, who at that point of time was actually a harried lot. So I would call upon Dr. Anjali Gupta to propose a vote of thanks for the day.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for all the appreciation. And thank you, Professor Dinesh Singh, sir, for appreciating my effort. I'll just start on with it. Honorable Padam Shri Professor Dinesh Singh ji, respected Professor Nageshwar Rao, sir, respected Padam Shri Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma, sir, our beloved Professor I.M. Pandey, sir, our very dear CA Dr. Sanjeev Singhal, sir, respected Professor S.S. Bhakar, sir, respected Professor Sanjay Jnani, sir, our very own Dr. SP Agarwal ji, Dr. JL Gupta, sir, Dr. Rekha Dayal, and all our valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I feel honored and privileged to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. Once a great man whispered, The essence of all beautiful art is gratitude. On this note, today on behalf of Teaching Learning Center, Ramanujan College and Indian Accounting Association, NCR chapter, and on my own behalf, take this opportunity to put all my gratitude into words and extend a heartiest vote of thanks to all the dignitary guests for gracing this inaugural session of 14 Days National Faculty Development Program titled Data Analysis for Research in Social Sciences, Sharpening Skills in Statistical Data Analysis for Research. I would like to express our sincere thanks and deep sense of appreciation to Padam Shri, Professor Dinesh Singh ji, for his interesting and meaningful address. Sir, we all are enlightened with your knowledge and presence, as always. I thank you, sir, for being there with us in the technological crisis situation, which arose for a couple of minutes with patience and poise. It was this patience and poise which made us to go ahead with the quick remedial measures. Thank you, sir. Sir, we are also amazed with the knowledge you share with us relating to importance of data in present and in ancient times. We always enjoy the way you describe the data, how it is to be used in India and how it was being used all over the world, not just in the present times, but since the inception of the human civilization. Sir, we as teacher must first definitely visualize impact of data so that we can teach the same to our students. You have rightly pointed out, sir, that we must first try to make our fundamentals strong, and simple steps will definitely do wonders. We are also grateful to Professor Nageshwar Rao ji for his thought-provoking address. Sir has encouraged us to use the new statistical tools that are available to young researchers. Definitely, sir, we are in a better position than the researchers in past, and we must take full advantage of the same. I would also like to express our sincere thanks to Padam Shri Professor Dr. Mahesh Verma sir for recognizing and appreciating our efforts. We are grateful for all his moral support and guidance. Sir has joined us, keeping aside his other assignments as Vice Chancellor of IP University and as a doctor. We also express our gratitude to Professor I.M. Pandey sir for giving a meaning to this faculty development program. Professor I.M. Pandey has highlighted the importance of data, logics, and analysis. We definitely will try to make sure that we adapt the changes coming up above the constraints. Definitely, sir, besides the use of data analysis tools, we need to also visualize data using the different languages, which is the talk of the day. Also, I thank you, sir, for continuously helping us to move in this direction. We are also grateful to CA Dr. Sanjeev Singhal sir for his inspiring address. We really, from the bottom of our heart, thank you, sir, for always being there for us to enhance and update our knowledge on the different aspects in accounting, especially in DAS. Sir, we will definitely imbibe changes in technology, especially after the pandemic phase, as teachers and as young learners. We also would like to acknowledge our gratitude to Professor S.S. Bhaker sir for sharing his precious knowledge with all of us. Sir has rightly added that the research in India is moving in the right direction. The workshop conducted in this regard all over India, especially by TLC Ramanujan College, is playing a key role in it. We agree that every teacher needs to be a researcher. Further, we are grateful to Dr. Sanjay Bhyani sir for his contributions and guidance. Sir has given us a snapshot of the vision we had while formulating this faculty development program. We thank you, sir, for appreciating our efforts to enhance the knowledge of researchers in use of statistical tools. I would like to express our sincere thanks to Professor M.B. Shukla sir for being always there for us. Join us glitches. I also take this opportunity to thank Professor CP Gupta from Department of Financial Studies, University of Delhi, Dr. Neeraj Kaushik from University of Kurukshetra, and Dr. Kuldeep Sharma sir from University of Mumbai, who took up time to join us today for playing a key role in being instrumental in helping us in framing and formulating this program. This program would not have been possible without their guidance and support from time to time. I would also like to place on record our heartiest thanks to Dr. SP Agarwal sir, Principal Ramanujan College and Web Chair for the Faculty Development Program, who is a dynamic administrator, excellent teacher, and a great friend. His support in all our endeavors immensely enhance the importance of our actions. Thank you, sir, for encouraging us to imbibe the new technology at fast pace and so that we can really better our teaching skills. I would like to thank our beloved, respected Dr. JL Gupta, sir, for his guidance and support. His enormous hard work and efforts is the reason why we are able to work as a team and put up a show of this stature. We can't thank him enough for his involvement and willingness to take on the completion of every task beyond his comfort zone. A very special thanks to our dear Dr. Rekha Dayal. Her sweet words, pleasant smiles, and presence always makes our day. Especially, it always makes my day. Dear all, an event like this cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ahead and it requires planning. And we are fortunate to have with us a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues from Ramanujan College and Indian Accounting Association NCR chapter who know their job and are definitely result oriented. I'm happy to express vote of thanks to all the staff members from Ramanujan College, Dr. Rajiv Nayan, Dr. Anshika Agarwal, Dr. Vipin Rathi, Dr. Nikhil Rajput, and Dr. Vibhash for their unconditional support. A very special thanks goes to our coordinator and technical team from Indian Accounting Association NCR chapter comprising of Dr. Rajendra Kumar, Dr. Abha Vadva, Dr. Purushottam Kumar Arya and Mr. Amir, who have always been there for us. The tireless efforts of the staff from TLC Ramanujan College comprising of Mr. Akhil and Mr. Prashant have made the things go in the right direction for the program. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who have turned up in such a great number for the program, not only from Delhi, but also from different parts of the country. I would like to place on record that we have even participants from outside India, from countries like Saudi Arabia. We thank you so much for showing interest and trust in our endeavor, and we thank you all from the bottom of our heart for your cooperation and patience. Thanks once again to all. With this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you, sir.